All right, great. Well, thank you everyone for joining. My name is Jonathan Erasmus. I'm the media liaison for WaterCan, and we are really thankful to have you all join us today as we release the school's water report. A considerable amount of work has gone into that report, and it's been driven by the youth, which is what we want in the month of June, as well as we celebrate Youth Month, that the youth took such a strong participation in this project. Without keeping you guys here for too long, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Ferial Adam, Executive Director of WaterCan. But before she takes on, please feel free to get into the chat, say who you are, where you're from, ask questions. We'll try to get to all of them towards the end, at the end. Yeah, we really look forward to your interaction. We will be releasing the report as well as our press statement via the chat a bit later. So look out for that. And that'll just help obviously pull everything together. All right, thank you. Over to you, Ferial.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for sharing your midday lunch or tea time break or snack time with us. I am Ferial Adam, and I am from WaterCan. I am going to do what most people hate doing, is I am going to share, and I hope I have the ability to share, just a very small slide project, a slide presentation. Just there we go. And I'll put it in slideshow. So firstly, I just want to say that this project was not just WaterCan. It was a number of organizations that came together. And, we thought that doing something around World Water Day is, usually the river cleanups, etc. They're all great, but we thought let's go and look at the schools and let's connect with, our school project last year was a massive success, and we thought we didn't expect to expand it the way it did. Kind of grow into the 7 provinces. And I just need to say a few things. One is we must remember that when I share these results with you, some of them are, in some provinces, we've got like 1 test done. But what we are saying is that we're sharing the results of this very small project. And even from that, the results are worrying. The only reason we did the numbers we did was we would have loved to have opened it up and have the budget to get every school testing across the country, but we didn't have that budget. We didn't have the person power, and even with all our partners, we had to rein in and say, we have to stop at this number. So this, please remember, is a snapshot of what we think is going on in our schools. And if we take our results and link it to the kind of issues around access to water and access to sanitation in our schools, then there's a correlation. And that is why we're saying this could be a very big snapshot of what's going on generally in South Africa. I think that, I want to say that the quote here that I have, the water we drink, the air we breathe, the food we eat, all of these things I risk, not in some distant future, but right now. And this, for me, means that we have to try and find a way to act. So these are our partners, and I just want to move my slide. We had the LEAP Institute, Adopt a River from KZN, WESA that covered a few provinces, not just one, Joburg City Parks, the STEM network. We had Science and Technology Center from both Cape Town and Nelson Mandela Bay. And through our partners, LEAP and WESA, we then managed to reach out to the Eastern Cape and to Limpopo. And I forget, I'll show you the results in a minute. But Adopt a River is based in KZN, and Joburg City Parks are based in Johannesburg, of course. And then STEM is in Cape Town, and Nelson Mandela Bay Science Center is in Nelson Mandela Bay. So these were largely our partners. We do have others that we will talk about in a minute. Some pictures, I think pictures tell 1,000 words. So These are just some of the students testing. On the top left-hand corner is Azile from Watercan and Adopt a River. And she was at the schools in KZN conducting the training before they would test, and then she would test with them. So these are the schools per province that uploaded. Remember, we had 105 schools that registered for this project. And these are the schools that we used the data from. So it was Eastern Cape, 19, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, and of course, Limpopo, Northwest, Northern Cape was just a few. Even in terms of the total Northern Cape schools that were part of this, I think we had about 7. So we still need, it's definitely an area, Limpopo and Northern Cape, I think are areas that we need to look at. How do we get more? It's just because of the vastness of the province that it's hard to get there. And then Western Cape, we had 6 uploads from the schools. So the quality of water per source. So we said test the water that you would use for your schools. We had 31 tap water tests. We had 3 rivers and 19 water tanks. And we think, given the statistics around, and if you look at the report, it touches on those statistics around access to water. A lot of schools are having to rely on JoJo tanks. Now, the tap water, 7 of those, yes, were not fit for drinking. The rivers, it's not surprising. In fact, the one that is clean, we should try and see what's going on in that river. And then, of course, the tanks are the things that's of concern. Now, we know a few things. One is in some schools, they use those tanks not for drinking. But, you know, when you have school kids and the youth, they'll be like, I'm not, you know, they'll drink it. They're like, we fine. So we have to, that's why we think it's important to monitor these tanks as well. Also, we don't know how often they're maintained. We don't know what their source of water is. And some of them get municipal water, some of them are rainwater harvested, some of them are borehole. But in all of that, whatever their source, there are issues that need to be raised, right? The chemical parameters across the board were fine. There were some concerns around phosphates and chlorine. And, you know, the chlorine levels need to be monitored. It's a warning. It's not life-threatening now, but if a municipality overdoses on chlorine, as you've seen and as we've seen in Nelson Mandela Bay, you can get byproducts that are harmful. So we need to look at that and monitor those. And in terms of phosphates, we do tend to see the levels kind of fluctuate. So we obviously need to be looking at that. There were 5 unsafe, but I think that was more in terms of what we needed to look at was verify those, and we haven't gotten to that point yet. We're doing the next round of testing soon. In terms of the bacteria, I showed the slide already, and it's quite telling, as you can see, but I want to go into the percentages. So 23 of the 53 samples were classified as unsafe for human consumption, as they had unacceptable levels of bacterial contamination. So that's a 43% of our sample. But remember, there are other schools that didn't upload, and we are trying to follow up on that. 7 of the 31 taps, which is 23%, 73% of the water tanks showed bacterial contamination, and 66% of our rivers showed bacterial contamination. Now, if we look at government's Blue Drop and Green Drop report, there is an alignment to what we're seeing here. That's why we're saying, yes, it's a snapshot, it's a small sample, but it correlates to what the Blue Drop and Green Drop has been saying. That's it. That's our results. I want to just, you know, we will take some questions. We've got some time. It's not, sorry, I need to stop sharing my screen so you stop seeing my emails. So that's just a snapshot. And I will be introducing 2 of our partners who will be speaking, but just to say that this is starting the conversation. It's not the end of the conversation. We were also very surprised by some of the results that we found. I didn't expect it to be at this level. I think Nomsa will talk about our next steps. So I don't want to preempt that. I want to actually now introduce please, if you have questions also, for the next speaker, I could answer some of them if you do have questions. But also I think let me allow Herman to talk a little bit as one of our partners. Herman is from Leap Schools and has been an important person. Herman is a development consultant who has worked mainly in education for the past 30 years. His work straddles the worlds of research and practice, and through his long association with RECEP, which is at Stellenbosch University, and the LEAP Science and Math Schools, Herman is a dedicated environmental activist. And I tell you, working with him, he kept us on track. I think he should add there like a phenomenal project manager. He has worked in mineral resource extraction and sustainability and education for sustainable development. So more than 30 years ago, as a student, Herman, together with other young people, started a South African signature campaign to support the international campaign to ban CFCs. Well, thank you, Herman. And I think that one of the things he says is that he believes that our planet will be saved by young people with agency, forcing the necessary change. And I think this is important because part of this project was not just about getting these results. It was about how do we build that next layer of water warriors across South Africa. And it's a starting point. Of course, you don't build it with one campaign or one project. It needs to continue, and that's something that we obviously need to discuss. But I want to hand over to Herman to share some of his insights, his learnings, and the kinds of things we did in this project. Over to you, Herman.
Thanks very much, Ferial. I just want to see Azile has a hand up. Do you quickly want to speak or ask something? Or is that a slip of the finger, Azile?
Herman, what we'll do is we'll take the questions. I think we'll take the questions at the end. So
okay.
and we'll do it all of it. Thank you. And if I can just ask everyone to please put their questions in the chat, and then we will work through them in that fashion. Thank you.
Okay, great. Ferial, thanks very much, and thanks for the kind words. I thoroughly enjoyed this campaign. I think it's fantastic that young people, that we could involve schools in something that is absolutely critical to our country's prosperity. I think the work that we do shows that unless we also become active, then the unequal situation in our country will remain, and people's access to water is a clear continuation of our history. So we need to change things. We need people, in particular young people, to have access to clean water, because not only is it important for their growth, but also for them to be able to be in school, stay in school, be healthy, be able to learn. And in the end, education remains the single biggest and easiest way to change people's life conditions and opportunities. And it's the quickest way and the easiest way that we can remove some of the inequality in our society. So let me quickly just talk to you about the work in the schools. There are two main things that we need to keep in mind. The one is that children go to school. If they're not at school, they're either at home or somewhere else. And therefore, like at home, where they need water to be able to live and thrive and play and clean themselves, at school, it's a need that children have. And so the education department is responsible for providing conditions that is conducive to learning. Unfortunately, in our country, as the report also shows in a more detail, and many studies have confirmed, is many schools do not have those facilities yet. And it's taken us 30 years and we still haven't gotten rid of, for instance, schools with pit latrines, schools with no running water. And we're not unique. I've worked in Namibia, and Namibia is a dry country, so there it's even worse. But that's no excuse for us. So we need to help the department. We also need to put pressure on the Department of Basic Education, as well as the provincial departments, to make sure that all schools have clean and safe drinking water and water for sanitation or other types of sanitation. So that's the one thing. Secondly, young people also need to understand our relationship with water, because as a scarce resource, all of us, whether we are young, old, working, not working, in particular mothers with babies, families, everyone needs water. And young people need to learn about that, understand it better, understand our relationship with water, understand what we do to pollute it or to waste it, and also understand what we can do with scientific knowledge to preserve water, to make sure that we have that as a resource. And so schools obviously is the place where we teach children about that. And this campaign is fantastic in that it's an experiential learning. So there's purpose behind the learning. It's not just a teacher that's downloading lots of information in very boring teaching sessions often, but actually it's an opportunity to first be confronted with the source, the water, and then to start understanding how much I know or don't, and what more I need to learn to be able to know what water is, how I can use it. And so again, that for me is a really fantastic part of the campaign. What I also want to say is it's a long-term journey. Learning and teaching takes time. At least it takes 12 years to educate a child through their lifetime. And so we see this as a first important step for us as partners, to grow our own capacity, to grow our own knowledge about what works and what doesn't, so that we can also engage with the education departments, with other people working in water, because we're by far not the only ones, with working with schools, so that we can help them create conditions for learning. Ferial, I think let me stop there for now. I can come back later on, but I just wanted to make these few introductory remarks.
Thank you, Herman. I think those were very insightful. I think very important message there, in terms of that learning is a process, and that, and I do think that the whole idea of giving agency to young people and the whole concept of citizen science that works so well with the youth. I mean, it's like they just start telling you how things should happen. So it was actually quite insightful. Our next speaker quickly is
Ferial, sorry,
Herman,
I wanted to just raise one more issue.
Mm-hmm.
The Department of Basic Education is busy with an extensive campaign to try and understand what the resources are at all schools. And of course, water is a critical one. And so we should not only beat up government for what they haven't done, but we should also celebrate when they are working towards eradicating that. And so we are working with the DBE, but it's also important that we help them with information, because quite often the mere presence of a tap or access to water doesn't mean that that water is actually usable and potable. And so this kind of data will definitely help the department to understand better what happens in schools, because they don't always have the capacity to measure at this scale and on a continuous basis. So again, it would help us become better partners to the department.
I think this is important, because you are very right, is that there's so many schools across the country. They need water. And yes, the water is not fit for drinking in many instances. And we need to look at how do we create that relationship between civil society organizations that we partnered with here, that actually start becoming engaging with municipalities instead of municipalities closing their door off saying we just want to fight with them. And let's be honest, and I mentioned it in the earlier part, is that with the specific, look, the rivers we know are bad and we know why they're bad. The Green Drop has said so. With tap water, we know that we shouldn't expect miracles, especially from where the schools were testing. The issue is access, and that is still a political issue, and it is something that must be challenged, Herman. But also in terms of the water tanks, right? We know that there are people who donate water tanks to a school, and the school's desperate, because in some areas, I don't know if people know this, but your stationery list tells children to bring water to school because there's just no water to drink. So in terms of the fact that people need water, so you get people donating tanks, you get people, the schools putting up, saving money, putting up a water tank. But the thing is, nobody's telling the schools that these tanks need to be maintained. These tanks need to be cleaned. And if they are part of the Department of Education, the Department of Education needs to institute something where they can make sure that the water is cleaned. Unless they're putting a tank there and saying, which is in some instances, saying, here's a tank, there's water for you, we are giving schools water, but then don't drink that water. Kids need water to drink. If you think about the temperatures we get to in summer, and kids do sports, they do a whole range of things. They need water to drink, and that is key, whether we like it or not. And that sometimes does mean having to challenge as we go along. But yes, we will not dismiss the good things that are happening. Thank you, Herman. Phumza, are you online? I don't see you in I don't know where you are. Are you online in a normal? Did you not get panelized?
Yes, sadly, we can't see Phumza here. So in the meantime, I think whilst
she says she's here. She says she's here.
I will find her.
Phumza, can you see if you can speak? Can you open your mic to speak?
No, what I'll do is I'll set that up in the meantime. Let's move over to Nomsa. Nomsa, if you want to continue with your part of the discussion, and in the meantime, I will arrange to get Phumza on here.
Jana, I have a better suggestion. I think let's deal with some of the questions that have come in the group. To give you 5 minutes to deal with bringing Phumza on board, and then Nomsa can come in at the end. So there are some questions. The one I saw was from Sherry, and Sherry, I think I've covered you. If I've missed anything, please let me know. There was a question about what is in terms of cleaning the water. I'm just getting to it, sorry. I did respond to Eddie Shibangu's question. Eddie was asking, is there a plan to follow up on these tests? And I'll leave that for Nomsa, Eddie, to respond to. And what are the impacts? Oh, that was it. Sherry, in some areas, this is the challenge. It's also a challenge in an area we're working in Bekkersdal, where kids might be getting sick, teachers might be getting sick from drinking the water, but we haven't, this campaign was so small in terms of, in terms of what we could cover, that we don't know. It's a possibility. I know that in Bekkersdal, when the community group there, Be the Future, wanted to get the results of people from the clinics. The clinic said no, that they had to submit prior requests. So it is a challenge to figure it out, really. I mean, that's a whole study in itself, right? I'm just checking. Do the schools have access to any form? No, they don't have access to any form of water purification, such as UV lamps, but we are talking to partners that might be able to assist in the short term, and Nomsa will go into that. And I think I don't see, Eddie says, I would like to ask, as most of the schools are using boreholes, whether it is about testing. So we didn't test boreholes, and we think most of the tanks were either rainwater harvested or municipal supplies. So we didn't do boreholes. Why, Eddie? Is because, like you're saying, and I think you've touched it somewhere else, is our testing kit does not cover heavy metals or stuff that you'd find in, say, for example, Gauteng. Gauteng, you need to do laboratory tests on your borehole water because of acid mine drainage, because of the mining industry, and we didn't do that. So this is something, of course, for us to note, and it is an important question because there are schools that have been gifted boreholes as well, and we don't know if they've been tested and how they, what is the reticulation plan from the borehole? Is it still into a tank? All of those kind of things. So yes, I'm going to not talk too much. I'm going to now go back to, I'm going to go to Pumza. Welcome, Pumza. Thank you so much for making time. So I want to tell everyone, Pumza is one of our outreach practitioners, and she is from the Nelson Mandela Bay Science and Technology Center. And they did a lot of the Eastern Cape tests. So I hand over to you, Pumza, to give us some of your insights into the project.
Thank you. Afternoon, everyone. I think Herman covered some of the sentiments that I also wanted to say for today. I mean, water testing is very important because basically it ensures the safety, quality, and sustainability of one of our most essential resource, which is the water, right? And what a good way to involve the water testing element by taking it to schools, because we know that our schools are often under-resourced when it comes to water access, as they rely mostly on your rainwater tanks. And I found it quite interesting with the results that you presented, Ferial, when it comes to the quality of the JoJo tanks, because as you mentioned, they do get gifted these JoJo tanks, but it's the maintaining of the water quality in these JoJo tanks that poses a problem to them. So as a science center, we took part in this initiative because we understand, how water quality is linked to public health, and we wanted to get an understanding of what's happening within our area. Just to give a bit of background, we are based in Kariga. So as a center, we service the local townships, which is Kwalanga, KwaNobuhle, as well as Dispatch. So we saw this initiative as being vital in the schools understanding what's happening to their water quality. And we also saw it as a way of promoting science engagement within the schools as well, and also exposing learners to scientific principles where they're able to apply scientific methods in testing the water quality, as well as to think really about what is it that they found in their water samples and how they can interpret it. And I think the WaterCan online system allowed them to be scientists, from a school perspective, which was great. A lot of the learners were very excited to be able to upload their results and to do the various tests that were in the kit. So I think for us as a center, it really allowed us to also expand our STEMI Club program, which tries to get learners more involved in science, to be able to look at different scientific careers and to see science as being something that's not abstract or difficult to do, So I think this campaign really assisted not only into looking at the water quality and what was happening at schools, but also to encourage learners to become scientists, to think about their future and how they can contribute to making their communities safer and more, or allowing more, how should I say, hygienic water to be accessible in their communities. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pumza. Thank you for everybody for joining. We will be sharing the results of the full report. I think I'm going to hand over to Nomsa, because I think, with the results that we found, we do think that there needs to be some kind of maybe immediate actions that need to be taken, and what these are, we're still exploring. But I think after Nomsa's done, we'd love to have some input from the audience and some quick thoughts and some quick ideas. And maybe we can build this project. My dream is to build this project so that it could be every school in the country gets tested, and school kids across the country get involved in citizen science. Over to you, Nomsa.
Thank you, Feo. Hi, everyone. My name is Nomsa. I am the Citizen Science and Training Coordinator for WaterCan. The next step that we will be taking, these are immediate things, like Feo said, things, but for medium and longer term, we are in discussion with stakeholders on what collective decisions to do. So the next step that we'll be taking is follow up on monitoring. This will be done in the period of July to August in 2025. We'll also notify affected schools with do not drink warnings. We'll also advise some of the schools to also boil the water before they consume some of the water. We will support schools in retesting and tracking changes. So the schools that have tested and we found out that the waters are bad, what we're planning to do is we'll also give some of the schools the testing kits to test again and see if the tests still come out the same or if there are any changes. We will engage with municipality to demand tank cleaning and improve infrastructures as well. So what also has happened while we were training and meeting up with our partners, there's a company that came through, it's called Business Connect South Africa. What they have done is that they've donated 1,000 of Aquatabs water treatment tablets to ensure that our children are protected from waterborne diseases. So this donation can treat thousands of liters, saving a powerful reminder that it's simple and effective to existing problems that we have in our schools. So we will also equip students and teachers with continued awareness and advocacy tools and support as well. And lastly, for the partners to explore more options that we can take forwards in this campaign as well. So those are the few steps that we'll be taking with our schools moving forward.
Thank you so much. Jano, can I hand over to you to field questions maybe?
So yeah, thanks. Hi, Farrell. I think unless there's more questions, I think it's probably best that we deal with them as they come through on the chat. Otherwise, we've got to bring people online repeatedly. So I think let's just take a look. We got another question from, yeah, I think we're actually done. As far as I'm aware, you fielded all the questions earlier. What I can recommend is for the media out there, contact details of the press statement that has gone out. So please take a look. If you want to arrange any formal kind of interviews, we can assist. You'll see I'm dropping it in now. In the press statement, you also found the link to the report that we've done. Please feel free to take a look at that. And yeah, we're happy to field any questions. If you also want to get in touch with Harriman, please reach out to us and we will coordinate that. The same goes for Pumza as well. We also help coordinate that into you. So, perhaps maybe you want to just say a few words in closing.
Yeah, sure. So there's a few questions. One is, are you planning to expand the scope of testing? Leanne, we would love to expand the scope of testing. We need to, and this is what we're doing right now, is trying to find funding to do that. I think the one thing I need to say is that I think many people know this, is that WaterCan is now our own separate entity. We separated from OUTA and we're a little NGO now. And we need to find funding so that these kind of projects can actually make a bigger impact. And so we'd love to do, you know, we have our March testing, which we focus on schools, and we have our September testing of citizen science that we expand across the country. We would like to then re-invite these schools specifically to test, but we want to expand it a little bit more, but we need to, I'm working very hard to find the funding for that. We are also in discussions with, so Business Connect as well. We're looking at putting in, so we have the tablets, which is a short term, as Nomsa has said, and we'll be sending it out to those schools and with explanation of how it works. But we're also looking at how do we put in the funding to make sure that in the future, those JoJo tanks can have some kind of a filtration system. And so we're looking at trying to plan a funding proposal around that. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking at. It's really the short term and then the medium and the long term. As well as in the short term, all the partners that were part of this, I couldn't thank them enough. I think that it's so wonderful. And, you know, when government and civil society and business partners come together, it's always, you never know how it will turn out. But I think that everyone was committed. Everyone was really had the same goal. And that was to understand, firstly, our water quality in our schools, was to build the idea of citizen science and to get young people excited about science and about the environment. And I think in terms of that, we achieved those goals. So I think for all our partners, that's a big round of applause. And thank you so much for the participating schools. We bothered principals, we bothered teachers. Teachers gave of their time. They were doing things after hours. They were doing trainings after hours. So I think that it was really a collective. It was really a wonderful coming together of people with this very similar goal. I'm just looking at some of the questions. The approach to pilot locally is what? Sorry, I don't understand the question. But I don't, maybe this may go like to ask. Are you partnering with any universities to foster knowledge on some remediation processes that are already established? That's a very good point. We haven't done that directly yet, but WaterCan has really good partnerships with UNISA, with UJ, with WITS, and they're all doing different things. So WITS is looking at the testing kit itself and they're looking on their own in terms of finding a testing kit. There's also UJ, where UJ Pete's, we're doing a lot of work and testing with them, but it's very local. And then, of course, there's UNISA, who's also running a project with their students. So they're running it for a year. So that's at university level. So there's not only that, but UJ also looks at remediation. Now, in terms of remediation, a lot of it is done in terms of the rivers and streams, etc. For this project, it's more about services and basic services. I see your hand up, Herman.
Thanks. Yeah, I can also perhaps just add to that. The LEAP Institute is involved with Rhodes University, which runs probably the biggest education for sustainable development leg of work at universities. And our partner there, Dr. Wilma van Staden, she did a PhD on water quality and water quality. So definitely from an education for sustainable development perspective, we're also trying to partner with universities and also with the universities down in the Cape. The University of Cape Town runs their water facility in Franschhoek, and we are discussing with them ways that we could align some of that work. Also, just to say to you that there are other people working in this space. For instance, the aquarium in the waterfront, and we are collaborating with them, working not only on water on land but also water in the sea. So that we're starting to build, we think, partnerships, because we know that we cannot achieve that on our own. So we need to find good partnerships. Yes. So thanks, Zingisa. I see that. So please reach out to us, and we can build this out stronger. Thanks.
Sorry, almost the last word is that WESA, is there someone on here from WESA? Because WESA has been also doing a massive project, but they're not looking at the high schools, and they're not looking at university students. They're looking at that missing middle of youth, and they're trying to empower them so that there can be some kind of movement to monitor the environment, but then also create some kind of a job. I think that's what the project eventually gets to. It's not there yet. So is there anyone from WESA here?
If you are from
Yes, sorry.
Windsor,
Can I just
pop it
add
in
one
the
more
chat.
thing? Sorry, Jonna, can I just add one more thing? Louise, I'm so sorry that I did not mention you guys as well. So we also do some work with the Independent University, IIEM, and they're going to be looking at getting test kits across to their students, which is very exciting. Sorry, Jana?
Yeah, if anyone is from West, obviously just let us know you're in the room by posting on the chat, and we can allow you to speak. If not, we do. I think Farrell's gone through a number of our partners, and if you also once again want to reach out to any of them, let us know, and we'll facilitate that.
I also think that we're looking to, I know that Rand Water is on here, and Rand Water has a really good WaterWise project. So we want to try to, if anyone can get out to the different schools in the different provinces, we could look at Rand Water. Okay, I see VUT is also very interested. Tara, please take the email address I've given on the chat with NOMSA and please get in touch with us.
Right.
Cool.
Okay, thank you. Thanks once again. And if you missed anything, if you really want to get, in touch with us, once again, go to the statement on the site. Let's post it on the chat. There's an email address
I know
there.
someone's hand is up. Sorry, Nancy Gomba's hand is up.
So Nomsi, do you want to talk? Okay. All right. Okay, just bear with me 1 minute, Farrell. If there's any questions, obviously we'll deal chat to Nomsi now, but if anyone has any queries, there's anything that you've missed, email address is media@watercan.org.za. Feel free to drop us a line and we will happily assist you wherever we can. And thank you for being here. Obviously, I'll allow Nomsi to chat now. Nomsi, please talk.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. My name is Nonsi Gomba. I am not representing my organization, but I am a medical scientist at the National Institute for Occupational Health, which is a division of the National Health Laboratory Service. So there's that disclaimer. I'm not representing my organization, but I got the invite from a colleague, and we work with waterborne pathogens in workplaces, but also we do water quality testing in different public spaces, including schools, for some municipalities. So it's a very interesting project that you are doing, and so I really commend the work that you're doing with your team and collaborators. Just one question or two. So you have a snapshot of the results, a total of 53 maybe tests that have been done, and then the press release or media release. My question is, do you have like a strategy in place? Because once the information goes out, you know what, how people react, and also social media can take it and misconstrue or do it good, or, like dissemination of the results, so that we don't scare, or we don't have that unintended consequence coming from the report. So that's one. And then the other one is, this is citizen science and using some kids. Do you have any quality controls in check, trained the people who are sampling or testing and all that, so that we know the results are reliable and we can move with, like you said, to put pressure on the department and the regulatory bodies and everyone to ensure that the water to school, at schools, is safe. It is that age range in terms of children who are, or who have immune systems that are compromised, or who are still young and their systems are not yet there. And also for us, it's an occupational issue because we also have the staff, the workers on the ground, and everyone involved. So it's a public health issue and an occupational issue. So we
Thanks, Nancy.
come back. Thank you.
Thanks, Thank you. That's a range of questions. I think they're very good questions. Firstly, on the occupational health, yes, you're right. Is that one of the things that have come up is that we need to partner with health organizations and health activists as well in terms of creating the awareness. You're very right around the media release, and that's why we're saying it's a snapshot, that we don't want to create fear that it's every school on the continent, because that's what would happen with social media, right? But also, having said that, is that we have communicated with each of our partners, especially for the areas where the schools were a problem. So we have asked each of our partners to approach those schools to let them know, to tell the kids not to drink the water. So we've done that. We will be looking at, a second round of tests just to help there. And then the validity of the tests. So, and quality control. Yes, we do a training. We do a training with the children and the teachers, and we make sure that a lot of it is managed by the teachers. We do have, in terms of the testing kits itself, we do know that it is ISO, there's an ISO verification for the chemical side, and the bacterial side is also verified by the Department of Water and Sanitation some time ago, but they're working on getting it accredited. So these tests are, and I want to say, I don't mean this in any bad way, but when you look at citizen science, there's always this kind of thing of it's other. It's not real science. It's not real, right? I know that the WRC has come out with the State of a Rivers report, and I'm not sure if it's released yet, but it's results from citizen science using both Mini-SAS and our water can kits. So the thing for me is that we forget that science began with ordinary people. And even within labs, things go wrong. So I can't say to you that we're going to have 100% efficacy on our kits. There are issues, I don't think we've experienced much of the QC, the quality control. We have had kind of questions around the nitrate strips, but that never posed a problem here. But in terms of the bacterial one, it's been 100%. We've had very little, if at all, discrepancies on that. It's not prepared by the lab that we use. That is the 3M Petri film that is used across the world. So, and that has been vetted, right? So those are the kinds of testing kits we use. But I do think that it's simple enough to be able to monitor. And I think this is why I find it interesting, is that when you get the pool tests, they'll say, no, you can do it at your house. It's fine. The results are fine. But why is it when we're testing and challenging the results that our science gets questioned? So we are very aware of that and the kind of concerns people have. What we say to that is, our tests are an indicator test. Finish. It's not going to go to court. It's not the end of the line. If you dispute our results, then we'll give you the schools, like we tell, whoever, the Department of Education, sure, go and test this. And that's what we want. We want the laboratory test. We just don't have the money to do that in all the schools. So our test is an indicator test used by citizen science. I hope I answered everything, Nancy. Those were fantastic questions. Thank you so much. Can you please give your details? I think you've really raised people who want to get in touch with you. So do we. So please share your email. Michelle from SWPN, please get in touch. Michelle, I will get in touch with you. Yes, thank you for the well doneness. It's scary, but hey, Michelle, we're trying. I think that was the last questions. I think, please, Nancy, before we say goodbye, please add your information and I will hand over to John. Herman, did you want to say something? I saw you come online.
Yeah, I quickly just wanted to also respond to Nancy. And as you say, A, firstly, it's great questions. B, they valid concerns. And C, this is exactly why we also think it's important to do this at school. Because young people need to learn how to think scientifically. And so part of teaching science is to teach them methods, to teach them about validity and so on. So we obviously use these opportunities. And again, this takes us from the experiential learning where they actually carry out the test and they tested it themselves. They were observed by teachers who were trained to make sure that they complied with the protocols. But the young people did those tests. They measured it. They looked at the results. They uploaded the data. And so when the teachers then take this experience back into the class, they can then engage them around scientific method, around validity testing, around how you do these things at scale, what are the limitations, etc., so that young people are aware of what they can and cannot do and how information is used and how it shouldn't be used. So it's also part of their own learning. Thanks for that.
Thank you. I think I hand over to you, Jano, but I just want to say again to everyone and all the participants, this was really a very good project, and I hope we can grow it, and I hope our partnership can grow as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I can still see the conversation is continuing in the chat there, and I do think we're going to really have to have another a webinar on this particular discussion about the tools of trade, essentially for citizen science. So I don't know if I have posted all the speakers' emails there as well. If you want to reach out to them individually, please do. And I'm sure they'll happily help you with any information that you need. There are still more questions coming in, Farrell. I don't know if you want to have a quick read through. You know, obviously I want to bring the session to a close, but I think it's just so important that we deal with these queries. I think they're very valid. So Farrell, there are a few more. I don't know if you want to take a look. I think from Leanne.
I think there were more questions around sharing information and sharing people's data. And I think Tara just said now it's very important to acknowledge the power of individuals, as well as lots of independent data. Thank you. And to show the public that science isn't magic. Yes, it's wonder. You know, I think Herman talked about it, Punza talked about it, but the faces of the children when they're doing all of this. I mean, we've had funny experiences, you know, last year when we were taking out the Petri film and we had the foil, and of course we were in the Cape Flats, and then the guy was like, we're going to smoke hookah, and we're like, no, we're not going to smoke hookah. So young people, they just see things we don't see, you know, and I think it's been phenomenal, and we need to build on it. It can't be a once-off. So I'm begging everyone, get involved in this initiative. Let's make this even bigger next year. I think we can.
Right. Thank you very much, Phil. And thank you everyone for joining. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to all the participants. Thank you for the incredible feedback that you've given us. And we will be doing a follow-up on this without a doubt, and probably a more in-depth webinar at a later stage. So please keep checking your emails for those invites and any further information that will be circulating with you. Without further ado, I want to say thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your Wednesdays. Thank you.